Hi everyone! Yes, I'm wearing the same clothing as the last week video, but that's because it's still last week for me. Right now, I don't have much free time as I explained to you in last week's video, but I really want to film every video that I can and put it in storage so I can actually take my time and send you or present you different videos within a proper timing. And today we are going to talk about a book I really wanted to film. Okay, that's okay. One book fell, but it's alright. As I was saying, this is the book we're going to talk about today. This is The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Jen Campbell and published by the beautiful, lovely publisher Two Roads, that creates this incredible paperback with an incredible cover such as this one. Maybe most of you know Jen Campbell because she's a booktuber and also a writer. She published not only the short story collection but also children's fiction like Franklin and the Flying Bookshop and Franklin and Luna Go to the Moon, if I'm not mistaken, which are two books about a dragon that loves to read and his companion Luna. And also she has published I think poetry collection and non-fiction books about bookshops. Again, I'm not really very sure about the titles, so I'm going to leave you her link to her channel, her booktube channel down below, and also to her website if I can find it. To me, being able to read Jen's book is very important. When I discovered booktube, I think it was 4 years ago now, Jen Campbell was one of the first booktubers that I follow because, funny enough, I discovered booktube first in English, and that's my main source of literary information, and her channel was, as I said, one of the first that I watched. The most curious thing about this book in particular is that I don't normally read short stories. It's not a genre that I go for, mainly because when I was a teen, that kind of genre always left me underwhelmed, that I was very invested in a short story, and then when I wanted to know more about the characters or more about the plot, or I was already inventing in my head how the plot was going to develop from there, the story ended and I always felt left alone in the dark without the characters that I was very invested in. Having said that, I find that this short story collection in particular is quite unique. It's unique in the sense that you can actually see very thematical elements in it that go throughout the story's place here. This is a short story about identity, about magic, about sense of belonging in oneself and in the world, and accepting oneself within that world. In this story, Jen Campbell plays with the belonging idea, with identity crisis in various forms. She plays with fairy tales and fairy tales elements, and what does it mean to be different in a world where those who are different are normally casted away. That's my reading of this story. The funny thing about short stories, or I find that Jen plays it very well, is that those are the themes that I could actually see, but for other people that reading is not the same, and I feel like that's something that short stories do very well. when it comes to the story itself, you know what are the stories about, but because you turn to, or you try to find a common ground in which you could kind of group all these short stories ideas and short stories themselves to say this book is about identity, like I feel is in this case. This book is about identity crisis, and identity acceptance, as well as how those who are different need to free themselves and need to, as society puts them aside, as I said, need to free themselves from what is haunting them. I love how all this story kind of summarize Jen's interest in her channel. You can see that she looks for disability and disabled representation, and also identity traits and fairy tales, and she loves all of that. So she managed to create her own short story collection of fairy tale-esque tales in which she tries to navigate through the world she created. And I love it. I love it because even though I didn't understood some of the stories, I love it because the stories left me thinking. The stories were a very interesting example of writing traits and writing techniques, and I was like trying to understand and to see why those resources and techniques were used. So for me it was not only a first encounter with Jen writing and prose, but it's very, very poetic at some point, which is great because that's how you see why poetry is important to her. But I find that through this short story collection I learned about writers' approaches to text, and for me the most important ones, or the most striking stories, and I need to check the content table because I want to say correctly. The most striking stories for me were animals, because the use of metaphors and the darker sense of the fairy tales could be found here in a more contemporary way. Plum, Pie, Zombie Green, Yellow Bee, and Purple Monster, because that was magical already. Does that mean that I dislike the rest of the stories that were presented in the beginning of the world, in the middle of the night? No, I enjoy all of them, but it is true that some of them were trickier for me, maybe because I am a Spanish speaker and my level of English, even though it's good, doesn't allow me to understand all the references or all the metaphors in the way a native speaker would probably do. And I really enjoy the rest, and also I find that through the rest of the stories, not only the ones I mentioned, I could learn as an aspiring writer. I learned a lot. For example, Jacob is an incredible story in which the main character, Jacob, voice is very, very well described, and also very, very well used throughout the whole short story. That's exactly how a character of his age would talk, and I think that placing a short story in first person and in a very, very specific character such as Jacob is really hard, and Jen Campbell pulled it really, really well. It was very, very kind of realistic, and I love how through this collection I was able to learn so much about the writing craft. What I mean by this is that I think Jen Campbell is one of the most kind of talented writers in the UK, because to me, having enjoyed a short story collection and having learned so much about the craft only with short stories, I think the beginning of the world in the middle of the night has the ability of pass the test of time, in the sense that I will, when I go back to this, I will take new learning experiences, new meanings from it when I go back to it. And I think it's a book that grows with you, that when you are reading it, you are enjoying it, but it when you finish it, it still haunts you. The images that Campbell's managed to kind of develop in these short stories still are at the back of my head, and I still go back to some of the stories, and I also reread parts of it, and I feel like when I do a complete reread of the book, I will think differently from what I thought originally, because I'll be more mature and I will know more about my reading tastes, and I will probably link and connect with other stories, because I will be able to understand what I originally didn't. So I feel I love that. I love how a book can accompany you through life and picking you up when you need it the most. Does that have any sense? I don't know. I think I'm getting emotional. One way or another, Jen Campbell has proved to me not only that she is an incredible person and booktuber that I follow like for a while, but also that her prose is magnificent in the sense that she's able to produce or make me feel all of this incoherent feelings of connection and understanding and appreciation of the craft that is writing. And I don't know, I find the short stories are so difficult to write that having this collection in my hands is almost a kind of gift from her to me. I really enjoy it, and I think you should pick it up. Have you read the book? I hope you did, and you can tell me which is your favorite short story of the collection, and if you have any other message that you think that highlights from here, from this book in particular. See you next week. Bye.